The woman smiled nervously, placed a worn canvas bag into a stranger's hands, and softly asked, "Can you hold this for just 2 minutes?" He nodded without thinking. 2 minutes became 10. 10 became 30. Then emergency sirens echoed through the crowded train station, people began running toward the far platform, and the woman never came back. Inside the forgotten bag was a handwritten letter, a little girl's drawing, and a truth that would completely change 2 lives before the sun went down. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue growing through stories that remind us that even the smallest acts of trust can become life-changing miracles. At 34, Callum Reeves had stopped expecting extraordinary things to happen. He worked as a restoration carpenter, bringing old furniture back to life one careful piece at a time. He often joked that repairing broken wood was easier than repairing broken hearts. 3 years earlier, his engagement had ended unexpectedly after both he and his fiancée realized they had slowly become strangers chasing different dreams. The separation wasn't filled with anger, only quiet sadness. Since then, Callum had built a peaceful life defined by routine. Work in the mornings, community volunteer projects on weekends, and long afternoon walks through the city whenever he needed to clear his thoughts. On a warm Saturday afternoon, he arrived at the Central Railway Station to meet a longtime client who planned to donate antique furniture to a local youth center. The station buzzed with travelers carrying backpacks, children laughing near the snack stands, and musicians filling the air with gentle melodies. It felt like one of those ordinary days that disappear from memory almost as quickly as they begin. As Callum waited near the information desk, he noticed a woman weaving carefully through the crowd. She appeared exhausted but determined, carrying a faded canvas shoulder bag while holding the hand of a little girl no older than 6. The child clutched a stuffed rabbit missing one button eye but smiled brightly at nearly everyone she passed. The woman suddenly received an urgent phone call. Her expression changed instantly. She looked around desperately before her eyes landed on Callum, whose calm presence somehow felt trustworthy. She approached him with visible hesitation and politely asked if he could hold her bag for just 2 minutes while she stepped toward the customer service office across the station. She explained that she needed to resolve an urgent issue before boarding her train. Callum smiled reassuringly and agreed without a second thought. The woman thanked him sincerely. Then she hurried away. The little girl followed closely behind. Callum watched them disappear around the corner. 2 minutes passed. Then 5. Then 15. He checked the large station clock several times. Concern slowly replaced patience. Around 20 minutes later, commotion erupted near another platform. A commuter had collapsed from a sudden medical emergency. Station staff and emergency responders rushed across the concourse. Crowds gathered instinctively. Announcements echoed overhead asking travelers to remain calm. Callum searched anxiously for the woman but couldn't find her anywhere. Another 20 minutes passed. The station eventually returned to normal, yet she still hadn't returned. Unable to leave an abandoned bag unattended, Callum approached station security. Following official procedures, they carefully examined the contents together, hoping to identify its owner. Inside they found neatly folded children's clothing, several illustrated storybooks, an envelope addressed simply, "If someone kind finds this," and a colorful drawing made by a little girl. The drawing showed 2 people holding hands beneath a bright yellow sun. Across the top, written in uneven handwriting, were the words, "Me and Mommy always find good people." Callum carefully opened the envelope. The letter explained everything. The woman's name was Rosalie Mercer. She wrote that she was traveling with her daughter, Ren, to begin a completely new life after leaving an abusive relationship several months earlier. She apologized deeply if anyone ever needed to read the letter, explaining she only carried it because unexpected emergencies had become part of her everyday life. She explained that if she failed to return, she likely hadn't chosen to disappear. She had simply encountered another crisis while trying to protect her daughter. Callum felt his heart tighten. Security staff immediately contacted nearby hospitals and local authorities using the identification found inside the bag. Several anxious hours passed. Finally, good news arrived. Rosalie had witnessed the medical emergency and instinctively rushed forward to help because she had once worked as an emergency medical technician. During the confusion, the unconscious passenger's frightened dog escaped into the station. Wren chased after the dog, afraid it might run into traffic. Rosalie ran after her. Both eventually became separated from their belongings while helping station personnel safely recover the animal and assist emergency responders. With multiple agencies involved, phones misplaced during the chaos, and no easy way to identify the stranger holding her bag, precious hours slipped away. Late that afternoon, Callum saw a familiar little girl running across the station. Wren recognized the canvas bag instantly. She smiled with overwhelming relief before wrapping both arms around it. Moments later, Rosalie arrived, visibly exhausted and fighting back grateful tears. She apologized repeatedly. Callum simply smiled. No apology seemed necessary. Most people would have walked away long before. He quietly admitted he almost did. But something about the little drawing convinced him someone would come back. Rosalie looked surprised. She confessed Wren insisted on adding that sentence because she believed kind people somehow recognized one another. That simple conversation became the beginning of an unexpected friendship. Over the following weeks, Rosalie settled into a nearby apartment while beginning work at a neighborhood medical clinic. Raising Wren alone wasn't easy. Balancing employment, childcare, legal proceedings, and emotional recovery often felt overwhelming. Callum occasionally helped repair broken shelves, assemble furniture, or fix small things around the apartment. He never imposed. He simply showed up whenever kindness was needed. Wren adored him almost immediately. She declared he possessed magical hands because everything broken somehow worked again after he touched it. Callum laughed. Secretly, he wondered whether perhaps people could heal the same way. Months passed. Trust slowly replaced fear. Rosalie gradually shared pieces of the life she rarely discussed. She admitted surviving years spent believing she deserved less than kindness. Escaping required extraordinary courage. Learning to trust again required even more. Callum never pressured her to move faster than her heart allowed. He simply remained consistent. Reliable. Patient. Safe. One bright afternoon, Wren invited Callum to her elementary school's family art exhibition. Every student created paintings representing the people who made them feel brave. Most children painted parents or grandparents. Wren painted 3 figures standing together beneath a giant yellow sun. One held a stuffed rabbit. One wore medical scrubs. The third carried a worn canvas bag. The title read, "The Stranger Who Stayed." Callum struggled to hold back tears. He realized something profound. Sometimes changing someone's life required nothing more complicated than refusing to walk away. Life seemed finally to settle into peaceful rhythms. Then another challenge arrived. Rosalie received notice that custody hearings involving her former partner would begin sooner than expected. Although authorities recognized previous abuse, the legal process reopened painful memories she desperately hoped never to revisit. Fear returned. So did uncertainty. On the morning of the hearing, Callum quietly waited outside the courthouse with coffee for Rosalie and hot chocolate for Wren. He didn't offer speeches. He simply reminded them they wouldn't walk inside alone. That quiet support became stronger than any grand declaration. Months later, the court granted Rosalie full custody while establishing permanent protections ensuring Wren's safety. Leaving the courthouse beneath warm afternoon sunshine, Rosalie cried openly for the first time since Callum met her. Not because she felt weak. Because freedom finally felt real. To celebrate, Ren suggested returning to the same railway station where everything began. They laughed at the idea. Yet they went. Standing beside the information desk where one simple request changed all their lives, Rosalie admitted she had almost never asked anyone for help that afternoon. Years of disappointment taught her trusting strangers invited danger. Something about Callum's calm expression convinced her otherwise. Callum smiled gently. He confessed accepting the bag without hesitation had been the most ordinary decision he'd made that week. Neither imagined ordinary kindness could rewrite entire futures. Another year passed. Their friendship quietly blossomed into love rooted not in dramatic romance but in steady compassion. They built traditions together. Saturday farmers' markets. Sunday picnics. Community volunteer days. Bookstore visits. Every memory felt beautifully ordinary. And because it was ordinary, it felt lasting. One spring afternoon, Callum invited Rosalie and Ren to the community park where volunteers had recently completed restoring an abandoned children's playground. He explained that every repaired swing and freshly painted bench reminded him of something important. Broken things don't always need replacing. Sometimes they simply need someone willing to believe they're worth saving. Then, beneath bright afternoon sunlight while children laughed nearby, he knelt beside the same canvas bag he had carefully preserved all those months. Inside rested a new handwritten letter. It thanked Rosalie for trusting a stranger. It thanked Ren for believing good people existed. And it asked whether they would spend the rest of their lives carrying life's burdens together instead of alone. Rosalie couldn't answer immediately. Happy tears said everything first. Finally, she smiled through laughter and nodded. Ren celebrated by hugging them both so tightly they nearly fell onto the grass. 2 years later, friends and neighbors gathered beneath clear blue skies for a joyful daytime wedding held in the same community park. Instead of expensive decorations, colorful drawings created by local children lined the ceremony path. One picture stood above all the others. It showed a canvas bag beneath a giant yellow sun. Across the top, Ren had written, "Sometimes 2 minutes last forever." Years later, Callum continued restoring furniture while Rosalie became director of community outreach at the medical clinic. Together they established a neighborhood kindness initiative encouraging residents to perform simple acts of trust and compassion for strangers. The first project placed small benches throughout parks bearing a simple message. Someone once stayed when leaving would have been easier. Be that someone. Before this story comes to an end, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment when one small act of kindness unexpectedly changed the direction of your life? Or has a stranger ever restored your faith in humanity when you needed it most? Leave a meaningful comment below because your story might become the hope someone else is searching for today. Callum eventually realized he had never been asked merely to hold a bag. He had been trusted with someone's hope during the most uncertain chapter of her life. Rosalie discovered that courage isn't only found in escaping painful circumstances. Sometimes courage begins the moment we choose to trust kindness again. And Ren never stopped believing what she had written in her drawing years earlier. Good people really do find each other, especially when they refuse to walk away from someone who needs them. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May this story remind you that the smallest promise, the briefest moment of trust, or a simple request to hold a bag for just 2 minutes can become the beginning of a lifetime filled with hope, healing, and love.